Welcome to the Marketing Intern Spotlight. A marketing intern is a listener who's spreading our message authentically. Hear their story, their passion, and their journey. Enjoy.
Today, let's welcome Duncan Dahl on the Marketing Intern Spotlight 31 weeks later. How you doing today, Dunk?
Dude, it's been an odd day. Culture shock, reverse culture shock is real. I've been back a little over a week and a half from New Zealand, and so just the sleeping aspect is wild. I'm up till like 3 or 4 some nights, and then sleep till 11. But and then just working with the New Zealand versus the American culture has also just been major shock of work to live versus live to work, and I'm just trying to get back into it. So
I remember your first time back from New Zealand when you studied for the semester abroad, and you came back and we had B-Law together, and every day you were late for the first maybe 4 weeks because you were just like, I'm on New Zealand time. Yeah,
and I had that conversation with my prof too, because I was just pretty embarrassed. I was like, I'm not trying to disrespect you. I'm just completely changed, and I don't see time as like a set thing right here. And again, I think we said this on the first one actually, that I did have track, so there was that element, and I was trying to get a few calories in myself before I sat for 2 hours. But yeah, it changes you a lot, and especially when you just try to dive into a culture, you really do try to adapt to who you are surrounded by. So just coming back into that and having a preference for New Zealand culture over American culture doesn't help me want to go back to that sort of culture.
So you spent 4 months when you studied abroad.
Yeah, 4 months.
4 months the first time around, and this was your second time back?
Yep.
And how long were you there?
I was there for 3 months, but I did spend 2 or 3 weeks in Australia, so 2.5 months, let's say.
And that was from January until a week and a half ago?
Yeah, I left New Year's Day from Minneapolis.
Yes, dude.
I was like, this is a perfect time to change up, like New Year, new experiences, so it was pretty sweet.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And just to give some context for, the listeners, the marketing interns right now, we had you on as Marketing Intern Spotlight number 3.
Number 3.
When this episode was in its nascency, and we were like, what are the listeners of this podcast have some cool things to say.
Oh,
and,
absolutely.
You talked, I think Andrew and I, when we first talked to you, were like, all right, this is what we really want the Marketing Intern Spotlight to be. Like, this kid brought some serious value with, your own story, and then how you tied in polychronic time, like you said, working to live, not living to work, right?
Yeah.
I'm getting that right. And you had mentioned this New Zealand trip, but you hadn't gone on it yet. So let's kind of just start there.
Okay.
And understand, your mindset at that time and why it drove you to go to New Zealand. And then I want to know how it was.
Absolutely. The mindset from when I was here the first time.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, we can just leave off from there. Whatever your mindset was before you left.
Okay. Well, this is a perfect segue. You had asked, like, do you have a 5-year plan? And, like, what's your plan before you go? Or, like, what do you want to get out of it? And what I came back with, I'm kind of scatterbrained right now, but we'll get after it. So my thought when I left was my sister is a farmer by trade. So like, I was like, okay, this is a cool opportunity to do something different. I'm not necessarily getting paid. I got room and board, but to do something different and learn what my family's doing. And I think farming and agriculture is a huge aspect of life. And so that's what I was doing. I was working on an organic farm, harvesting, planting, all sorts of stuff. So I wanted to try something different because I knew that sitting at a desk was not going to be for me, and just sitting around really makes me lethargic and tired and adds to my symptoms of mental health. So I knew this was an opportunity to spend my time outdoors, breathing fresh air, and like, if nothing else, I learned something that my family is incorporated. And she's now in Boston doing work on an organic farm there as well. So I have a little more of an idea what her day-to-day is like. And it's easy to be like, oh, what do you do on a day-to-day basis? But until you live that, like, you don't really have a clue, especially in farming, because it's so different. And I think all our perceptions of where our food comes from is different. Whether that's good or bad doesn't really matter. But some think it's just like a tractor, blah, blah, blah. But like, we did most work by hand, which is really cool. Yeah. Digging some dirt up was real as well. I know I said that in number 3, but I dug 2 or 3 ditches, pretty massive ditches. So, but yeah, that was a pretty open-ended question, so I had some anxiety of like where I wanted to go with that. But
well, and let me help you out, I guess. I mean, you're sitting here like, I want to go to New Zealand and just get paid for room to board and figure it out from there. Like, how did you build the want to even begin there and want to do something like that?
It all really stemmed from my studying abroad, because I learned so much that first time, because I was there with 13 other students on this program from Butler in Indiana, and my 3 best friends actually ended up being women of color. So I just, going from a very white town in northern Minnesota to being really good close friends with 3 women of color, like, it was just mind opening, especially St. Thomas being very white as well. So I just learned so much, and it really opened my eyes to a lot of things. And that's when my mindset really started to shift of looking for, is happiness found in money? Is it found in people? Is it found in this? Is it found in that? And I don't think it's in money. I don't really know where it is. I think it's in yourself mostly too. And I struggled with my mental health a lot coming back from that, because I was like, okay, this culture isn't really necessarily my favorite. Like, I found a really cool culture and I really like it, and I want to keep exploring more cultures. But I'm not happy within my own mind. So I really wanted to go back, because I think it offered me enough space with just being on a farm with 2 other people and a dog to really search within myself and find what I need to do to get my head and my mental game on a par where, okay, what is happiness beyond myself now? You know, I was content and I was happy and I was present a lot of that time while I was gone. So that was a huge bit of going back. I wanted kind of like a therapy session set up by myself to just spend time with myself and my mind to try and get square.
You were on a farm with 2 other people and a dog for the full 4 months, or was that?
Yeah, when I was in New Zealand, I did 2 road trips, but so 60 or 70.
Was that the plan going into it, or would you go to New Zealand and then find out what you were going to do once you got there?
No, that was the plan.
Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
So my sister actually came with me for the first 6 weeks. So I guess it wasn't only,
awesome.
But yeah, my last month was just me and my 2 bosses and their dog.
Was she doing some practice work for what you wanted to do, or did you just kind of like make this plan together?
I was planning on going. I didn't have a legitimate plan or a plane ticket till November though. So she wanted to come and see just like what another farm was like, and she had just finished her job in December, and farming season didn't really start again until March or April. So it was a good opportunity for her to see what another farm looked like, and I think she will end up running her own farm someday. So it was good to be in a more freehand and open environment to like make suggestions and make movements on what they were doing as a farm. And they aren't farmers by trade at all. They just retired from teaching a year ago, so they're very much learning themselves. So she had a lot of knowledge and information to pass along as well. So it was a very cool reciprocal experience for her as well, which was awesome.
That's incredible.
How'd you get in touch with these people?
Actually, the woman went to high school with my uncle, and so she's from Anoka, where I'm from, and she went there when she was 23 to work on the trail networks, and she never came back. She started teaching around the area, Auckland, Wellington, and then finally got offered a job in Nelson, where she is now, and then met her partner and has been there 33 years. So taught 30-some years there, and now she's a farmer. So. And
what are they farming?
It's mostly agriculture. They had 3 cows. They killed 2 while I was there, so that was odd as a vegetarian for sure.
Whoa.
Yeah. Some chickens, so we sell free-range eggs, but mostly like capsicum, which is peppers, eggplant, all sorts of good stuff, fruits, veg. It's really good stuff.
Eggplants get pretty big, don't they?
Oh, they're a monster, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not so banana-shaped. More just like circles, pear.
Yeah,
and just massive.
Yeah.
So not like the eggplant emoji.
And exactly, not like the eggplant emoji.
All right. Learn something new every day right there.
Yeah.
So talk to me about like the physical labor and how you just threw yourself into it. What was that initial shock to your system? Was it...
Were you in shape?
Yeah, were you in shape? Were you ready for this? Or was there a lot of surprises that came along with the work?
Kind of depended on the day and how long, because I think the expectation was 3 or 4 hours of labor per day, which was pretty nice. It gave me a chance to go ride my bike and play with the dog. But coming from a retail background, I was able to walk most of the time, but it was the bending and the just being close to the ground as a taller human being that was difficult. But if you balance on one knee, being closer to the ground, you have a better support. You can work through your core then. But yeah, it was a shock for sure, especially having come off back surgery too when I was 20. So just to focus on being engaged in my core was definitely something I had to refocus myself on in order to survive those days. But it really wasn't that intensive.
Yes.
No.
But you were able to ride your bike, which was nice.
Oh, so nice.
Did you buy one when you were there, or did they have one ready for you? Because that's got to be on the list. Like, I'm not coming unless there's a bike ready for me.
No, I got a travel case for my bike and brought my mountain bike down.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, but also I didn't realize this, but my male boss, he was semi-pro at one point. So the first day
cycling?
Yeah. So the first day I got there, we rode road bikes, and that was my first time on the road in New Zealand on the left-hand side, because they do drive on the left-hand side. So I was like, oh crap, this is odd as hell, but it was really cool to just experience cycling from his point of view, and he had so much knowledge, and I learned more in 2 months riding with him than I had in 2 years just like digging around and trying to learn it by myself. So it was so cool.
That's amazing. How was like kind of like your mental headspace when you're in this like different environment for the second time, right? Because like did you get rid of kind of the shock the first time of like, what is New Zealand, that first time, and then you go back for a second time, you have a little bit more expectation, you have a little bit more intention for why you're there. So how was that going in, and what was like your mental state? How did it treat?
So I was very comfortable going back because I kind of understand the way people talk. We talked about how they are hard to understand, but I really didn't struggle with it at all this time, which was nice. And yeah, my mental state going in was just, this is for me. Like, that's that Instagram post where you're like, oh, we need to talk. So yeah, this is for me. And like, I'm not too concerned about the difference in culture, because that's what I'm here to experience. Anything odd or different or unusual that I don't understand is a reason I'm here, to learn more about the way things are different and the way people do things, and I think that's one thing we do really get concerned about in life is like, oh, this is so different. I don't get it. I don't understand it. But really, that's the point of life. Like, to not understand, but see it and be like, okay, that's your experience is huge. And that's what I really want to do. Okay, I see it. I don't get it, but that's okay. So it was far more comfortable. Like, I didn't feel the need like I did at 20 to be like, oh, this is why they do blah, blah, blah. No, this is just how their way of life is. And that's okay. And I don't necessarily get it because I came up from another upbringing, but this is just how they do things. So it was just a far more comfortable experience for sure.
Dude. So I read this thing the other day that you just sparked me on, and it talks about the core principle of the subjectivity of life. Listen to this.
You'll have to send me a link.
Yeah, I will. And it talks about how there's two really core principles in your subjective, if you put your subjective experiences in a box, and it is A, your experiences, and B, your sensitivity to those experiences. So you can't have experiences without being sensitive to them, and you can't have sensitivity unless you're in those experiences. So like for you to go into this experience or to have this experience, it's defined strictly by how sensitive you are to all your surroundings, right? And I just think that's amazing how like you can put yourself in a situation where you're uncomfortable, be aware of it, be sensitive to it, and then have an entirely different experience that you can go and tell people about.
Yeah, that's a really good way
Where'd
to put it.
Where'd you see it?
Homo Deus, by Yuval Noah Harari, talking about just what I explained pretty much. Yeah. It's part of a book. It's a book series I'm in right now.
Wait, repeat that author's name?
His name's Yuval Noah Harari.
Oh, one of my best friends just sent me a book. Was it Sapiens?
It's the book after Sapiens.
Yeah, she said, oh, have you ever read this morning by him? So
full circle,
yeah, dude,
baby.
that synchronicity is wild, dude.
Yeah.
That stuff scares me.
Oh my gosh.
No, that's why I was so stoked when I saw that Instagram post from you where it was like, I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this so I can expand my own experiences, put myself out of my comfort zone, and really, ultimately challenge myself. And not a lot of people, and me, even myself, like, aren't just going to drop everything I'm doing and go to New Zealand. You know, I'm not going to drop and just follow something because I want to, you know, and I respect the hell out of that.
Thank you.
So props to you. And like, that's why I really want to talk to you about it, because like, it's such an external experience.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing, dude.
I mean, your commitment to it was from, I believe we talked in September, and it was just
Something
from
like
like,
that.
September and the next few months of just figuring out how I can make this happen January 1, because that was the goal the whole time, was like, the new year, I want to make this happen because I had such a love for it when I was there earlier that year. And was it 2017?
Yeah.
It was
Oh, no, 2016, because Trump got elected that year.
okay. It was the fall of 2016. Gotcha. And yeah, so you got to go back 2 years later.
Yeah.
Very cool. But when you were there, one of the challenges that not only you faced, but the whole country faced, was the mass shooting there. And
Oh, yeah.
that had to be like just a complete whirlwind experience. You're there, able to experience a New Zealand culture that's so very relaxed, and this happens. If you care to share, and we'd love to break it down, like how did that day occur, and from your eyes? What part of the country was it in relative to yours?
So I was on the tip of the South Island out towards the west, and Christchurch is over across the island to the east and just a bit south. So I think it's about a 5-hour drive, and on the opposite coast. It's really hard to break down because I like to think as myself when someone who understands New Zealand, but then again, like, I don't know the history that well, and I'm not that immersed in the culture that I want to speak to it, but I will definitely speak to like the day. So I think it was just, they played the radio most of the time in the packing shed, which is where we got our fruits ready and sent it out to the various restaurants and grocery store. So I think it was heard on the news, and it was just kind of baffling, and it was an odd day. Like, it was beautiful, sun out in the sky, and we were just all kind of like, what just happened? Like, this is super surreal. And I think...
Was your sister still with you at that time, or she had gone home?
She had gone home, yeah.
Okay.
So I did receive text from my sister, like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, like, such a peaceful place, which it really is. But yeah, it was just a really odd experience, and there's still really no words for it, because they changed the gun law within 10 days. Deck and I talked about that, and it was in our group chat a little bit, but yeah, 10 days later they reduced or banned semi-automatic guns, and so it was just a crazy experience. I think it was good in the fact that we can see it can happen anywhere. I'm not saying those lives are not lost in vain, but I'm just saying that it can happen anywhere, and as well as the progress and change that can happen after a horrible event, and we can grow from bad things happening. I think that was really the takeaways from it all. And it was really cool to sit down. They had a memorial after the fact in Christchurch, and we had a student over working on the farm, and I and our female boss just sat there and watched the memorial. It was really powerful, and just the grace and eloquence that Jacinda carries herself with, that's the Prime Minister of New Zealand, is just spectacular. So, and it was really cool seeing all the girls that wore headdresses in solidarity with the Muslim women, and yeah, it was just an incredible show of eloquence by the country.
Damn, that's nuts. Are there any experiences that you had? Like, what was your favorite experience?
Oh my gosh.
in New Zealand this past trip?
What if you went at like 2 roses and a thorn? You know, we love that.
Okay.
2 goods and
Great call.
Yeah,
dude.
2 goods and it's something like, you know, I didn't. I guess that you could have just mentioned it, but the thorn.
Yeah, let's call that the thorn in the whole experience.
Yeah,
Good
not
call.
to devalue that, but that.
Yeah,
It's tough.
Yeah, it's kind of like cheating, but at the same time, it's definitely a thorn in the whole thing. I think my creativity levels definitely hit an all-time high. I'd been practicing yoga, which helped a lot clear my mind. Thank to you for mentioning yoga with Adrian.
Yo, let's go.
Because I got one more day of dedicate left. I should have done it today, but I took a nap instead. But
so you're like way more into it than us.
Probably, yeah.
Mhm.
That's amazing.
But I just found it as a recovery tool. I had turned to cannabis in the past as a recovery tool. I don't know. Yeah, we'll just go with that. But now yoga, like, honestly, is better than cannabis as a recovery tool. So it was incredible. I would ride my bike and I'd come home, I'd do yoga, and then the next day I'd feel like $1 million. It was incredible. And I never felt that good.
Why do you think that is?
Honestly, I think the flow of the energy, you do harness energy in yoga. I really believe that. And I think that, and just being present in my mind rather than just like, oh crap, I'm dead dog tired. Like, you're focusing on, like, I'm trying to be healthy. Like, I feel good. I feel recovered. I think it's 98% mental. I really do. As well as the blood flow you get going and the recovery you start. But I think it's really, okay, I feel good. Like, I think that is a huge part. And I also consumed or ingested. I kind of thought about that too. Ingesting content rather than just consuming it. Like, you can consume content all you want, but if you don't ingest it and get it into your mental capacity as well as into your life, you're not like, what's the point of just consuming it?
Wait, what's the difference though?
So ingesting would be like getting it all through you, and taking it into a deeper meaning, whereas consuming, you can just like watch it and not really have anything come of it. It doesn't,
Then you just poop it out.
exactly.
Yeah.
I guess, and it all goes to the same place, but it's just like
Are you going to take the nutrients, or are you just going to let it slide through your system?
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I ingested a documentary called Heal. So it was all about the mindset or ability of the mind to heal, and like how we are so focused on normal pharmaceutical remedies to our health, but it was really focused on the proactive and just using the mind to heal itself. So it was really cool to be practicing and trying to use my mind to heal my body. And I know it's not a serious disease or anything that I'm trying to heal, but just healing my body from a mind perspective rather than just like, oh, I could pop some ibuprofen and I might feel better. But yeah, that was so. My creativity as a result of this yoga was definitely rose. There we go.
Nice.
So I wrote a lot. I had started writing a book, actually.
You're kidding.
Whoa.
So I was 13 pages in, actually, when it all went to hell. So the office of St. Thomas, Microsoft Office, shut down because of my time difference, and I still haven't gotten it back online.
Oh, no. So it's all in, like, the cloud.
I think so. I think I have it saved in multiple places, and I'd never switched to Google Docs because I lost that content. So, like, it just wasn't there anymore. So I lost that, but my creativity was at that level that I was like, I'm gonna write a book. Like, this is gonna happen.
A book on what, real quick?
So it's gonna be based on my life and what has developed into my philosophies. So I think I had like 10 or 12 different chapter ideas, and yeah, I was just filling it out little by little. So
is there like one? I really just want to dive in on this. Like,
yeah, let's go for it.
What's like one? You mentioned philosophy. Is that what you said? You like
Yeah.
one moral philosophy or one
Yeah.
mental philosophy that you utilize? What would like one of those be that you feel most confident in sharing?
Oof. Yes, I'm Minnesotan and Norwegian.
Shocker.
From Minnesota, you don't say.
Are those prescription glasses?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I just had to check.
I'm blind as a bat.
Yeah,
So.
Duncan and I have shared this many times. Yeah, we're blind together. Mhm.
Yeah, I probably should be legally blind, but what would be I'm most confident about? Oof, I don't know.
What was one of the chapter titles or chapter topics?
Mental health. I think there was one on psychedelics as well.
Really?
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough debate of like broadness and breadth to like how in depth I want to be about it, because I do have a lot to say on a lot of things, but also like I want to be factually accurate and I want to carry resources throughout and have references and stuff like that, because I learned that in my good St. Thomas education. But yeah, so I guess I don't really have just one off the top of my head. I'm sorry to say.
Sure. No.
I tried to think about it, but it's just not clicking right off.
Don't worry. So you mentioned that documentary and how you like really ingested that. What was the name of that documentary again? Sorry. Heal. Okay. So
I got you.
You saved me. You saw that spill from the corner of your eye. Nice. Nice peripherals.
We're just ripping LaCroix out here talking shop. Of course, it's just a beautiful time to record a podcast. But I guess I really want to understand, like, how were you able to just like clear your mind and have that translate into creativity? Because I struggle with that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of times I'm wanting to be creative at times where I'm just not. And then there's other times where it's like, oh, frick, I identify that I'm creative and I'm writing jokes and I'm doing all these different things and it's flowing. But for you, like, how was that process?
I think it really translated because it was so mindful to be working on the farm as well.
Yeah.
So I was doing something where I could clear my mind. I could think about what one thing I wanted to think about, whether that was just like, okay, this is the little cucumber flower I need to pull off because it's going to start the vine this way. So that's cucumber laterals, let's say, or just, focusing on filling rock bags that hold down the weed mat. So just being able to focus on one thing and then maybe one other thought was super huge, just like blocking everything but that one thing out. And I think I was watching something with Matty Healy, the 1975 lead man, yesterday, an interview with him at K-Rock at Coachella, and he said, creativity doesn't just come to you. You have to sit there and you have to work and you have to pound through it. And most of the things I come up with, I don't just write through in one song. Like, I don't just write it from scratch. I have 2 words or like one idea, and that comes out at the end. I literally just sit there and pound it out. So I would love to say there's some magical formula, but literally it's looking at your paper until you're blue in the face, and then something comes to you, and you keep compounding, you keep going back and forth, you scratch stuff out, and you get there. It's a process. It's no magic formula by any means. So
that's awesome, man. And it's not easy, but you're continuing to fight for it. And now you're back here in the United States, and you have to fight for taking what you've gathered in New Zealand now twice and try to implement it in your day-to-day life. And there's going to be resistance from people around you because the cultures are different. So you've been here for a week and a half, and you're probably going to be here for, you haven't mentioned any plans of traveling to other places quite yet. I'm guessing
we haven't got there yet.
I was going to say we haven't got there yet, but you're here now.
Yep.
Are you back at REI?
I'm not, no.
Okay.
I am.
Will you be back, or?
I am unemployed currently.
Dude, I got you. I shot the congratulations dunk on LinkedIn today because it said 2-year anniversary at REI.
Yeah, I'm not really a well broadcasted LinkedIn guy. We'll get to that.
I figured.
Oh, that's
but you've been here for a week and a half now, and
Yep.
What does the day-to-day look like? And let's unpack what's next, man.
What's next? What do I do? So I wake up about 11 every day. Well, waking up's relative. I get out of bed about 11 every day. I do just the giggles in the background. I hope that comes through on the audio because it's just so pleasant. Yeah, so I do some reading in bed or whatever, and I get up, and then I check the paper, old man stuff, drink some coffee with my dad, say hello to my dog. I've had mac and cheese for lunch the past 4 days. I really don't have a much to do. I've been reading. I finished a really good book.
Title?
The Story of B, which is Blasphemer. It's a story about the Antichrist. And yes, it's wild. It's a phenomenal book. It's by a guy who wrote Ishmael and My Ishmael, if you've ever heard of those. Highly recommend all 3 books. They're phenomenal. So do some reading, maybe walk my dog. I went for a bike ride once, but a lot of naps, a lot of sleeping, a lot of reading.
Okay. Not working at the bike shop?
No, not working at the bike shop yet.
Wait, when did you go to Australia?
I went to Australia the second week in February.
Okay.
And my sister had never been, so we toured a bit. Actually went to a town called Townsville, of course. That's why I said town. I guess it's more of a city. But they were flooded just up till we got there. Well, they were still flooded, but it had rained for 3 weeks straight until we got there. So we didn't get to go to the Barrier Reef, which was a bummer for her because that was her big item on the itinerary. But, shit happens. And then we went to Tasmania and Sydney, and then I was in Sydney, and I hadn't even booked my ticket back. She was leaving in 2 days. And this is when the story of my friend who took my room, having come. So when I was coming back, I was supposed to stay with my roommates from sophomore year, my junior year. And I didn't know if a guy would actually leave for his study abroad. So I was like, when my best friend texted me and said, oh, do you want to live on the U's campus with me? I was like, yeah, sure. And so my friend I went to visit from Sydney, I went to Western Australia to visit my friend who lives there. He took my spot in this room, and had I not lived with my other mate at the U campus, I would never have met this guy from Western Australia. And that was another route. Let's just throw that into the road so it comes full circle again. Going to Western Australia and seeing him was just absolutely phenomenal.
Now, who is this guy?
Ben Jerez. He was an exchange student at St. Thomas, and he works in Vermont at Camp Aquila, and he's big into camps. It wasn't a thing in Western Australia where he's from, and so he's really trying to promote that sort of thing in Western Australia. So he has a 2-year visa. He's coming to run and be kind of like a manager of this camp, and then he's hoping to take those experiences back to Western Australia and make it accessible for children over there, which is super cool.
Gotcha.
And what were you doing in Western Australia with him? Like, have any fun out there? What were you
Oh,
doing?
absolutely. So we went for a surf. We did some bouldering. I read a lot of books. I got a tattoo.
Yo, you got a tattoo?
Yeah, I got a tattoo.
Yeah, let's
The
see it,
big
dog.
reveal.
Oh,
Question mark. What kind of
yeah, let's unpack that, bro.
design? Why
Why the geometric? I
Mhm.
couldn't tell you. I just thought it looked sick. So this came from a meditation I started to have because I am on antidepressant, anti-anxiety medications, and at one point my boss said, "Oh, Duncan doesn't really seem to be into farming." This was about 2 weeks in, and my sister was like, "Well, Duncan sometimes really isn't into anything because he does struggle with depression, so just getting that motivation is hard for him sometimes." And so she shared this with me, and she said, "I hope I didn't overstep my bounds." I was like, "No, honestly, if it's affecting my work, and then they deserve to know. Like, it is technically a disability." When I had to check that off on a work form, it was like, whoa, like, do you have a disability? And I was like, yeah, I guess so. So it's not mine to hide if it's affecting my work, I decided. But so at that point, I was like, okay, so I struggled with this a lot when I was there the first time. And am I going to allow this to affect me again? Or am I going to be in this present moment? So every morning I started to wake up, I would take my medication, or I'd write a question mark, I'd take my medication, I'd put a check mark on my other wrist. And so I took my medication, so everything from here is on me. If I'm not in the present, if I'm not enjoying it, if I'm not trying to do my best to be happy, it's on me. So that's the motivation to get this question mark is, okay, I've taken my pill, everything else for why I'm not happy is on me. So, and it's also just a representation of that being okay with not knowing, being okay with not understanding. So there was just a lot behind it too.
Good for you, man.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, and it's incredible self-awareness. So I'm excited that you kind of you had that intention with it, and it sounds to me like it ended up working out with the way you wanted to go about it and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good stuff.
That's so cool.
My dad said I figured you would have gotten a daisy on your butt when I showed him. I was like, yeah, we've talked about that forever, but it wasn't actually going to happen. So.
Dude, that's amazing. I love that commitment, and like Andrew said, like the self-awareness is off the charts. And do you know who Johann Hari is?
Didn't you just say his name?
No.
That,
Johann Hari?
no, I do not.
Yeah, so
What was the other name you said?
Yuval Noah Harari.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, different guys. But Johann
A
Hari.
lot of similar sounding vowels. For
No,
sure.
yeah, I do not blame Andrew for thinking that.
So
but,
go the two different names one more time.
okay, Yuval Noah Harari
The
is
author
a
and
historian of *Sapiens* and all these other books.
Yep.
Johann Hari is the author of this book called *Chasing the Scream*, and he talks about understanding where depression and anxiety actually come from.
Gotta find my pen here quick.
Yeah. No, I also really want to know what's in that journal of yours, bro. That's pretty amazing.
Oh my gosh. It's pretty full. We could probably talk about it for hours. But
What did you write in there, Mike, just in general?
There's like notes about travel. There's designs trying to create a logo for the farm. There's tattoo ideas. There's recipes.
Just a book of life.
Yeah, just poems. There'll probably be a poetry book coming along as well.
Damn.
There's notes about the back pocket and stuff.
For real? Wait,
yeah.
yo, throw, give us something from the back pocket right here.
Oh shoot. if I can read my writing. That's the biggest problem here. It was just like, I don't know. It's really nothing huge. Okay, Yoga with Adrian was on there. And then I just wanted to, I know the stationary astronaut's on there as well because that dude is legendary.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yo.
And you guys got me into podcasts super seriously while I was gone. So, and he was a big reason of it because he is just so interesting and so inspirational for sure.
Most excellent.
That's really great. Good feedback, man. I love Nick. He's a great dude. But anyways, what I was saying about Chasing the Scream.
Oh, Chasing the Scream.
Chasing the Scream. Write that down. By Johann Hari. He's on Rogan a couple times. And I can send you that podcast too. But he went around the world and interviewed all these different people and all these different experiences and understood the root of their depression and the root of their anxiety. And what he determined is what people tell you or what people say about anxiety and depression is that a lot of it is biological, which I'm not saying it's not. There is biological depression and anxiety, and that's that. But his argument is, hey, let's look more into your social, your emotional, your mental state, and your environment. And how does that impact or how does that change the result of depression and anxiety? So he does like this whole study, and that's pretty much what he finds is that, hey, it's biologically, depression is really only 10%. And he says 90% is everything else. So it was really like you looking inward and like having that check mark next to your question every day and you owning your own happiness, you're owning your own persona, like totally just backs that up.
Exactly.
It's freaking dope, dude.
Well, and those, because that's the thing, like the biggest reason I'm on prescription is for the symptoms that are biological, that are physical. So like insomnia, fatigue, and a few other things like those are the main two like of the reason why I went on a pill. And it is biological, it is chemical, but it is definitely maintainable. It is not something that you have, it is something you struggle with. I don't have depression, I struggle with symptoms of depression. Letting it define us is definitely something that we need to hone, or not hone, but not let it become who we are. But
I got what you're saying.
Yeah. I'm not a words guy, out loud, that is. I can definitely write you words, but sometimes it's far more difficult to spill them out.
Hey, man, what it takes. We're kind of trapping the puck and transition into our core questions.
For sure.
You know the drill at this point. We still got to ask them because they always change. The first one is, what's your average quality? And do you remember what you said on the first one?
I do. I've thought about these because you send them when you send out the invites.
Yep.
So I said my taste in music.
Okay. Has that become less average and more, where would you see that now?
It's still average as far as like the breadth of the type of music I listen to. But I'd say it's less average. Well, okay. So I'll tell you a story. I was just think, because I started to share a lot of music on Instagram. That was kind of how I've been using that medium. And I was like, shit, like, does anyone actually listen to these songs?
Adams by R.L. Grime and Jeremy Zucker. I listened to that one today.
Okay. Yeah, that one is so
good. Dipped perspective. Duncan just put that on his Instagram story today.
Yeah.
I played it right away. Good song.
Yeah. So, and I was thinking, like, does anyone listen to this? So Declan listens. So I know of two people for sure. But Meg, I can't think of her last name right now. And if she wants a follow back, I honestly unfollowed her.
Damn.
No, this is what I'm saying though. I didn't want to follow her back because if we don't talk, I tend to unfollow people. But if you want that follow back, unfollow me, refollow me, and we're cool. And I'm sorry I unfollowed you in the first place. But so she sent me a message like, Duncan, your music's sick. Like, keep doing this. And I had just thought the night before, like, does anyone listen to this? And so that leads me into where my average quality is now, which is I've been studying Dahl as well, which is just like the flow of life as it pertains to the ancient Chinese.
Little order and chaos.
Exactly. And it all is energy and it all surrounds us. But so just the trust of that is my average quality. So like,
I'm with you there.
Yeah, dude. So does anyone listen to my music? Like, I should be more like, I'm sharing this. If someone wants to listen to it, great. So that was just that full circle. And I think the more I've become trusting in just being confident in myself and like what I'm sharing, what I'm doing, all the better. But also when you stop having trust in that, it's also all the worse. So it's just, if you can get to that middle ground and be like, okay, yeah, I'm me, I'm present, I'm here. So that's where I'm really struggling, is just being in that center all the time.
It's so hard because it's pulling us in different directions all the time, right? And it even goes in the point of like extreme happiness and extreme like gratitude, like in the order section. Like you got a lot of things you think are figured out, and you let that go too far in one direction. And then when the chaos just even flickers, it all crashes because you just thought everything was up here and so great, and then boom, something happens and bam, everything breaks because you got so lost in realizing the perfection and everything. And you need to have the balance of what you're kind of describing right then and there with the music. Is like, it doesn't need to be the perfect music out there, but it just got to be, this is what I like to share right now, and it doesn't need to please every single person that's in my circle.
Well, and I think the average quality of having a broad taste in music also added that. She said she liked the diversity, and I think me sharing the diverse catalog of music also leaves something for everyone. You might necessarily like a trap, more hard Denzel Curry, but you might really like a Lord Huron. Like, so just that diversity adds a lot of value, I think, to my followers.
That's amazing, dude. I love that. I did you guys see Colin Cowherd's thing on Tiger Woods today?
I did.
You saw that?
I'm protesting sports.
Oh yeah. Do you like golf though? Is golf acceptable?
Yeah.
What sports are you protesting against?
Mostly the NFL. I think the NBA is rigged. But
you said that last time, I think, too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe we've had that conversation off air.
We've definitely had that conversation. I think any sport where referees can control the outcomes, I think you're naive to not believe that there's a possibility of it. And I think the money in sports is gross. And I think it does offer a lot of platforms. LeBron James is using it well. There's a lot, and that's just one off the top of my head that use it well. I'm not saying that it's all inherently bad, but I think a lot of the money could be going to a lot better places. But
I'm with you there too. But I like sports too much.
Do you think, like, I mean, my argument to that is there has to be some of that order within a game. There has to be rules that are followed in order to win or lose, and there's always that distinct outcome for most sports, unless it's soccer, obviously, then you get the tie.
Oh yeah, I watch soccer too, so golf, soccer,
cycling,
but
okay,
road cycling is a snooze fest, so it's mostly just mountain.
Okay, but my point, I guess, is I really don't like the introduction of like replay a lot of
I agree with that.
There's good times for replay, but there's also like a point in which you really got to draw the line and be like, okay, why are we reviewing whether that was a pass interference or not? Like, I love referees almost because of the human error and how that is now is a factor in the game. Sure, you could take it one way and say, oh, it's rigged, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because they're human and this is what happens. These things happen. But at the same time, like, if you take it the other way in terms of competition, it's like it happened this way because it happened this way. We're all human, and we're all here around the TV watching the Super Bowl, or we're all around watching Tiger Woods, which is kind of what I was getting at, was just like everyone was rooting for Tiger Woods a couple weeks ago.
Sick.
Like, how amazing was that? Like, being able to look back on that. But the one thing that like totally hit me big time was Colin Cowherd kind of unpacked the average quality, and like unpacked where you have to go through like a serious valley, a serious low to make that mountaintop, winning the 2019 Masters, that much better. Like, same thing, he said Jordan and Tiger were the two most, like, he compared them as like the most iconic, most heavily followed. But a lot of it, like Jordan, his dad died, and then he went into baseball and didn't do well after already winning 3 titles, and comes back and wins 3 more, and everyone's all on his back. Tiger goes, tears his ACL, multiple back surgeries, says he's never going to play golf again, can barely even walk, does this, and this, and now he comes back and he wins the 2019 Masters. Right? Like, you got to go through the valleys to get to the mountaintops. I thought, like, it's relatable almost, but that's
absolutely. And I'm not saying there's not beauty in it, and I'm not saying sports.
Yeah, take that, dude.
Haven't
sports are dope.
They are, absolutely, but I think also it's just taken a huge role of life, I think we spend a lot more time watching sports and viewing sports that aren't necessarily of the importance or of the historical value of yesterday's Masters or this whole week's Masters, because lowest rounds ever on Saturday. You got guy coming back from that valley, like it was huge, but I think we spend a lot more time viewing and witnessing these sports than is truly valuable to our lifestyle. I think that's from my experience as well.
Are you saying that because I woke up at 8:30 every day and watched the Masters until 6:30 that I was PM was wasting my time?
No, I just said the Masters was valuable.
Okay, sweet. Okay. Because I did that.
You did that.
I'm saying working
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I did that. I loved it.
Was it available online all the time?
It was.
Sheesh. I just turned on the...
I queued in right away.
Blew that one.
Yeah.
But I watch all the coverage on the television, so
okay.
I can't fault you.
Okay, thank you.
Are you when you're saying like entertainment and we're like watching stuff too much, are you like at the root of all that? Are you talking more so like
Game of Thrones?
Well, no, I'm just saying like, are you even just from a macro perspective, just like, oh, am I looking at my phone too much, or am I looking at like is my screen time just like off the charts? Like I feel like, did you have a lot of time away from your phone and stuff in New Zealand? Like, were you able to have those experiences, or were you pretty much the same as what you always are?
It's pretty much the same as it's always has been, but I have been I have used the screen time app as a way of judging, like, okay, I had a far, like, why was I on my phone more? Saturday, okay, you spent 4 hours on the phone. What were you doing? Like, was it raining? Was it but I think I've always kind of been, we never had cable until I was older, so I just haven't really been a tech or like a junkie of screen time. So that does come from my experience, so it is far different to spend all this time. But it's also I went the first month without TV, so that was not normal. And I've read like 22 books this year already, I think.
Dang, dude.
Month 4, 22 books.
Yeah, that's
7
amazing.
books.
3 full months. Yeah, this is month 4. So yeah, so hopefully we'll get to that average up about 28. 7 a month would be sweet. But yeah, I just think, and it does bring in the question, like, is me spending this time in these alternative universes and books the same as Netflix? You know, and I think that was worrisome to me too, is like, I create these alternative realities, but why am I creating these in my mind? And then like embarking on these missions that aren't reality. Is it something that's wrong with my life? Is it something wrong that I can't cope? You know what I mean? So it's a debacle in my mind, and just the lack of social interaction as well, and the nights we choose to not just hang out with one friend and we watch 7 episodes of Netflix. I'm not saying I'm not guilty of it. I finished a series in a day since I've been home, but yeah, so I just it
goes back to that Taoist, right?
Exactly.
That kind of mindset again.
Yeah, and I think it's just being conscious and asking the questions is where I'm at. And I hate the word devil's advocate, especially as a white male, because we tend to do it. But I like to play that question game. Like, is this healthy for you? Is this good for you? Why do we do this? And it's not like saying, when I ask, is that good? It's not saying you're wrong. It's saying, why is that good? Why are you doing that? And I'm just honestly curious. And so don't be offended if I ask you a question. I'm inherently intuitive, and I just want to know, is this best for us?
Yeah, that's I feel the same way. I feel like I'm overly curious.
Yeah.
I get my head into like so many different things now that I just have a little bit more free time, but it's still going back to like even asking that why, like why this, why that. It really helps you kind of open up like another box that you've never even thought of.
One way that we've been curious, and that's really helped us grow as a podcast, is challenging ourselves through asking our guests who they think we should have on our show.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if we did this back in
No,
September.
not the first time.
Yeah,
no.
This is a new one. So, Dunk, if you have anyone in your train of mind that would be good for the back pocket, who do you challenge us with?
Growth and development podcast.
That's centered on a wide range.
I remember. I had a thought about this today, actually. It wasn't so focused on one person or a couple people. It was more. I was thinking about Twitter last night, and I quit my Twitter again.
Don't tell Sam that. Big Twitter guy.
Sam's a big Twitter guy.
Sam heard it. He's here, unless he's locked in already. I saw a tweet that said Twitter so far misrepresents its community it's in. It's 75% white people. I don't know the gender discrepancy, but in San Francisco, it is 33% Asian, about 40% white, 25% black. So that just kind of blew me away. Like, they made this huge headquarters and they're not representing the culture that surrounds it. And I understand that's not the norm at this point, but it was just shooting bogey for the course because it is 2019 and I thought Twitter was a pretty progressive company. So I'm not saying you're not doing a good job of getting diverse people. I would just challenge you to do more diversity throughout, because it is a lot of guys, it is a lot of white people, and I think just hearing more broadly diverse stories would be very beneficial to your market. I don't know if that's true. That's just all from my head, and I think that's asking the question why. Why are your hosts or guests who they are, and are we representing who we want to represent completely?
Mm-hmm.
So
it probably plays a little bit of, not to answer it like off the cuff, but it probably plays a role into the convenience factor.
Oh, absolutely.
Of dipping into the same pool that we've broadened through St. Thomas, as we already mentioned in this podcast, very heavily. And like, that's just an endless kind of thing that we can, since it's an alumni pool that we can grab into. Yeah. But yeah, that's a great challenge, and we are ready to accept it and definitely take that on.
Yeah,
I love that, because I think when we were like reflecting on our 2 years of work in January, one of the things that we noticed, we were like, wow, we need more women on this podcast. And so now, like, that's just a baseline intention that we have. That's just a baseline intention that we have, and like just having that right away like has already expanded our horizons into these different people, like Andrea Toppin, the person who we bought these chairs from, and is like an amazing badass who runs marathons, like is training for the Olympic trials. Like, someone like that we would have never met if it wasn't for like taking that intention. So now it's just time to take the next intention. Where do we go from there? So thanks for challenge.
What can we do?
But and that's the thing, dude. When we're challenged, we take that seriously.
And then the other question that we've incorporated since your last time on the show is a question, putting the ball in your court and asking us a question. I don't know if we did that one either. We might have, but
no.
Do we ask what's in his back pocket yet?
We have that. I mean, I feel like that's a one-time question.
Did you ask that one already? Do we ask that one to him though? Is what I'm saying.
Yes.
We did? Okay. Never mind.
Yeah. Oh, I said humility.
Yep.
Hey, there
and
you go.
it came back right at the end of the conversation this go around. So it was perfectly full circle.
Beautiful.
Hey, I was just curious asking questions over here.
Yeah. Ask the question, Deck baby. All right. Now you get to ask the question, man. Do you have any questions for us? The ball's in your court. We've hammered you with questions for 50 minutes now. Lay it on us.
I guess, what are you most excited about coming up in your podcast schedule that you might be able to release to the public?
Ooh.
Or any big changes, or like what's happening with you guys? Because you release a lot of content. I guess it's what amazes me about you guys is you have so much planned and we never hear about it till it just like happens, which is understandable because that makes the hype more real. But
we just drop shit.
Yeah, exactly. And your process is incredible, but like, is there anything cool coming up? Anything you can share?
Let's see. So this was
Create the hype.
Today it's May.
It's April 15th.
I know, but we dropped this podcast and it's going to be May.
Okay.
It's going to be like middle of May
7th?
probably.
It's going to be like May 7th. May 7th, I want to say.
May 14th. If it's May 21, whatever, so be it.
But I want to say it's May 7th.
Okay.
What's
and
Tuesday?
Today is tax day. Thank you, Trump, for my return.
Yeah. Did he get you good?
Oh, it was nice.
Nice.
Happy tax day.
Happy tax day. Challenging us or opening up who's on our docket. We're going to keep that behind closed doors with the guests. But one thing that's opening in my life that is a new career opportunity, I closed the door or got the door closed on me at my previous job at Media Bridge Advertising.
Mm-hmm.
And that was about 5 months employment there. And since today's May 7th, it's been a while since this has happened. But I started a new job that's more focused on something that they thought I wasn't very good at, and I was like, I think I am better at it than you think. And this is paid Facebook advertising, the analytical side of it, and I'm getting trained in by someone who does it as a freelance career, and
That's sweet.
I got that job today.
Congrats.
This morning. So I'm stoked about that.
It's gonna be Andy freelance over here,
and it's gonna help the podcast tenfold.
Absolutely.
And he loves the podcast, and he's like, bring on as many people in your community into my network, because I want to make this thing like very valuable to you. So he sounds like he's gonna help not only me but us grow a lot.
Yeah.
Stoked for that.
I think one thing too, like Andrew mentioned, the paid advertising, the paid route, and we really started that. We tried to, at least back when we graduated in like May, June.
For sure, yeah.
We took it off. We were just like, all right, let's throw $20 at it and like learn how to do it. And it was really telling experience. Like the returns were not anything glorious. We just learned a ton. But at the time, looking back at it, we really didn't have great production. We really didn't have great audio. We had some pretty sweet guests, but like we had a lot of things missing on the production end that we have now. I can confidently say we have pretty sweet mics. And we know how to use them.
Yeah, they're pretty nice.
This
is so much better than it was.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, we redesigned our studio. We have a nice cameras. We have multiple angles.
We have Sam.
Yeah, I was about to say you have a
we have
a pretty
the
decent
intern.
intern over there.
Yeah.
But like, my point is, like, we really are trying our best, our wildly average best to figure out production. We have a direction where we want to take the podcast in terms of guests and challenging ourselves. And now we have this opportunity that we can dip back into with paid advertising, and now planning not only our content, but planning how we want to market everything.
Just expect to see us a lot more frequently on your social medias.
Yeah.
Terrific.
Yeah.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to say, I didn't really preface the whole guest thing about diversity. I'm not saying you haven't had sweet guests. You have. I was just pushing for more. I'm not discount, and I'm just speaking to everyone else, the interns or the guests, everything. I'm not discounting you at all. I am just trying to push these guys forward as much as they can, because I know these guys can make it huge, and I'm sure you all agree with me. So
well said.
What's been your favorite part of season 3 so far?
Oofda.
Sorry, I've been asking a lot of oofda questions.
Well, yeah, it's just the stuff I didn't get to prepare for. You know, these are the killers. Favorite part of season 3.
Well, because
can I tap into my phone here and
sure,
look at the
go
list?
For it. Sure, go.
I mean, it's been sweet. That's the thing.
So you've been listening to a lot of content then?
Yes.
All right.
Lots of it.
See, that's good. That's what I want.
The Lance Armstrong podcast is super sweet. The Ford podcast, if you haven't checked that out.
Lance from the podcast. I know.
Yeah. I did like Nasser's. Oh, Yoakum for sure.
Nice.
Period.
Right off the bat with Yoakum. Yeah. He dropped the hammer with a lot of fire. Sure.
Yeah. And it was so cool because like Yoakum and I got along on a level because he was pretty shut off and closed off, as he talked about, and just kind of hated the world. But like, I think we were both kind of at that point at the same time, so we got along really well. But it's so cool to see like the positivity streaming from both of us, I would say, compared to a couple years ago. So yeah, Yoakum's was super sweet.
Nice.
Definitely my favorite part so far.
That's what I just love about our friends, because it's always, anytime you check back in at different times, it's like the growth is always off the chart, and there's always something new to talk about. There's always these new experiences, and Yoakum was a great example. Like, I really didn't know the guy that well in college. Andrew, I don't know if you did.
I did. Yeah, he was over a lot with Greg and stuff.
Sure, but I mean, I just didn't, and seeing him like as your teammate and everything, and then having him come in the studio and just bring the fire, dude, you're like, whoa. Where did that come from, right?
Yeah, dude.
It blew me away.
Every day, 10 a.m., I think. So.
Yeah.
It's got definitely something to do with it, for sure.
The yoga is definitely a factor.
I would also say the mountains and the valleys are a factor.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I will never not refer back to that. That's so stuck in my brain of just, gotta have the valleys to go to the mountains, to get to those mountaintops.
And he was sitting in that chair.
Wasn't he?
Sitting in like this, like like he was
he
in
was
our
in
face,
it,
like,
dude.
like at the edge of the couch, just like
I just couldn't do it.
yeah, full posture.
Can you
and
imagine if we
just,
all just did a podcast
like we were like basically
leaning in
on
by
each
fire,
other.
dude?
Yeah, and just no. I mean, I guess.
Well, I mean, if you
That's
had,
not what this podcast is about.
he was reading a book
Yeah,
called
I'm
The
here.
Supple Leopard, which was like
Kelly Starr. Yeah,
the idea of just like not warming up, but just being warm all the time.
Yep.
When we were sophomores, I think. So like,
Yeah.
he would be like, if you can't sit like that, your core is not okay.
yeah,
Would probably be his philosophy.
extreme
So. Extreme, but like it gets the job done.
for
like,
sure. It's a one route to get the job done. Not
Yeah.
saying the route.
Absolutely.
But Dunk, this brings us to our final question, a simple question.
Okay.
What did you learn today? So this is from the moment you woke up to when we're having this conversation. A simple question. What did you learn, Dunk?
Ooh. I would say read the menu fully before you order. I'm a vegetarian, and I thought these enchiladas were vegetarian, but I've had beef for the first time this year today.
You just went with it. You didn't like try and pick around
I
it.
swore I just because it's about the waste and the production is why I'm a vegetarian. So, but that's kind of a cop out. I would just say be fully honest with yourself, because if you're not, you're trying to tell a story differently across the board to someone else. Like, oh, this is what I share with them. This is what I share with them. Blah blah blah. But I just think being honest, being transparent is something I've learned today, and trying to be in that position of like, okay, I'm not necessarily happy being back home, back in the States, but what can I do to change that? And being honest with myself. Okay, this isn't working for me. This is what brings on these feelings, and just being honest and transparent about it as well. Like my friend said, "Are you okay?" yesterday, and I was like, honestly, no. Like this, and then talked about it, but just progressing and working through that gave me a lot of insight of like why I'm not okay. So just be honest with yourself and be honest across the board, because then you never have to make up a story of what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Instead,
backtrack.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason to backtrack. The past is the past.
And instead, you're exploring why. You're
Exactly.
gonna find and conquer that why. And
Absolutely.
it's just gonna make for one hell of a podcast when we have you on the next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Absolutely.
Hopefully it's not 37 weeks this time. Maybe we'll be a little shorter.
Well, unless he travels somewhere.
Oh yeah.
Do you want to travel somewhere?
Where are you headed?
What's
Last.
your next?
leave us on the final
there is-
cliffhanger.
Rumors of Europe within the next month even. So we'll see.
Okay.
And I don't know if I'd be back before August then. So
September.
September? Okay.
We'll make it a 1 year. A 1 year of your first time on.
Okay, we'll have to double check on that. But yeah.
Okay.
There'll be bottles of bubbly or the champagne of beers. So
Well, yeah, whatever you want, dude.
it's on the company card, I heard.
Hey.
Well, I've been hanging on the west coast in my heart, right where I'm meant to from the start. It's so much warmer than the secrets you've been holding in. And don't you look at me sideways with those eyes.